The story begins with a young boy named Elias Martin standing in a forest alongside his master. With a smile, his master hands him a demonic sword and tells him that from today onward, he will no longer be looking after him. He instructs Elias to find a companion, just one person, whom he can always forgive from the depths of his heart. Elias is surprised when he sees the demonic sword. His master places a hand on his shoulder and tells him that from now on, he will be a member of the hero's party. He adds that he has already spoken with the royal family, assuring him that even though he doesn't have any magic power, things will work out somehow. With that, his master wishes him good luck. Hearing this, Elias is completely astonished. He understands that his master wants him to make friends, but joining the hero's party to defeat the Demon King all of a sudden doesn't sit well with him. When his master entrusted him with the demonic sword, he also mentioned that the sword has never seen battle before. At the time, Elias didn't realize how strangely suited he would be to the sword, even though he has no magic power. It's only later that he comes to realize the immense power that was hidden inside it. Months later, he finds himself fighting demons alongside his fellow members of the hero's party. After receiving a tip about the demons' whereabouts, they came to this pass to investigate. As they fight, more demons suddenly begin to appear. Thomas the warrior and Isabella, a sage, grow increasingly tired having to fight the endless waves of demons. Although a single wyvern isn't much of a challenge, even S-rank parties would struggle against so many of them. He can see that everyone is reaching their limits. Elias calls out to Matteo, the hero of their party, and with a look of concern, he tells him that they're struggling because of the sheer number of demons. Matteo, his voice tense, responds that he's well aware. After having fought for hours, they are forced to retreat without achieving anything. The group is left exhausted and frustrated. Matteo turns his anger toward Elias. As they are walking back, he calls out to him. He asks him if he understands his role in the party. Elias, while carrying his pack on his shoulder, glances back at them, confused by Matteo's question. He simply replies that he is their companion. Unable to hold back his anger any longer, Matteo decides to come out and say it. With an angry expression, he tells Elias that he's nothing but dead weight. He also tells him that they no longer need him and he is fired. Elias's eyes widen in shock and he begins to sweat. In a nervous tone, he asks Matteo what he did to deserve being kicked out. Matteo responds sharply, telling him that there are two reasons. The first reason is that Elias is a liar. He explains that Elias has been insisting they follow a floating light, even though none of them have ever seen it. Elias insists that he did see a strange floating light. Even though he doesn't know what it is, he is sure it isn't something evil. He points out that they have always traveled safely while following it. However, Matteo dismisses this as mere luck. He continues speaking, mentioning the second and most important reason. He tells Elias that he can't wield the demonic sword properly. Elias is left stunned by this revelation. He explains that demonic swords can be created by accident, through natural phenomena or artificially, under specific conditions. However, none of these swords can be wielded by someone who lacks the necessary aptitudes. He adds that although Elias has the right aptitudes, he still cannot draw out the sword's true power. Angered by those words, Elias responds that there has never been any issues because of that and he can still be of help in battle. He adds that he can still fight for everyone's sake. However, Matteo interrupts him, telling him that he simply isn't needed any longer. This dismissal leaves Elias feeling deeply hurt. He returns to his inn and lies down on the bed. As he reflects on his situation, he ponders what he should do next, feeling disheartened by the way the hero's party treated him. He recalls his master's words when he told him that he needs to find a companion whom he could always forgive from the bottom of his heart. Elias is brought to tears thinking about this. He really believed he had found trustworthy companions and had hoped to continue adventuring with them. After considering all of this, he wonders if perhaps he should simply become an adventurer on his own. He goes over to the Adventurers Guild to register. He is warmly greeted by the receptionist, a girl named Erin. She recognizes him immediately and calls him by his name, which surprises Elias. Curious, he asks her how she knows him. Erin replies with a smile that she knows him because he's a member of the hero's party. Elias, feeling down, tells her that he has been dismissed from the party. Erin is taken aback by the news. With a cheerful expression, she remarks that it sounds like Elias is now aiming to become an adventurer instead. She praises his positive attitude, saying that turning adversity into opportunity embodies the true spirit of an adventurer. She really is a glass-half-full kind of person. He thanks her in response, feeling reassured. He appreciates that she continues to treat him normally. Erin grabs some papers and informs Elias that she will register him as an F-rank adventurer right away. With a playful smile, she adds that they have just received a quest perfect for beginners. She explains that there is a recently discovered lake in a large forest about an hour's walk from the Imperial City, and his task is to explore it. Following her instructions, Elias sets out and makes his way to the forest. He strolls through the forest with a bag slung over his shoulder. Taking in the scenery, he comments on how beautiful it is. Reflecting on his time with the hero's party, he realizes that he always acted for their sake. Starting today, however, he plans to focus on his own well-being. As he continues walking comfortably, he suddenly spots a group of goblins ahead, and his eyes widen in surprise. Elias recalls Erin's warning about the possibility of encountering low-ranking monsters along his path and reminds himself to stay alert. Now hiding behind a tree and feeling nervous, he worries about having to fight. Suddenly, he sees the familiar floating light that he has followed before and realizes it's guiding him to a safe destination. Feeling relieved, he comments that the path illuminated by the light should be safe. Following the light, Elias eventually reaches the lake. He is taken aback by its stunning beauty. While exploring around, he suddenly notices someone approaching quickly. He hears the sound of footsteps and realizes that someone is running towards him. Suddenly, an elf girl and a water dragon burst into the area. He is taken aback by their unexpected appearance and struggles to understand the situation. His shock deepens when he realizes that the dragon pursuing her is a water dragon. The elf girl stumbles and falls to the ground, clearly in pain and terrified. Elias is bewildered by the presence of such a powerful monster. Normally, no monster stronger than a wyvern appears in this area. Seeing the elf girl in trouble, he knows he can't waste any time thinking. Determined, he draws his demonic sword and swiftly positions himself in front of her just as the water dragon is about to attack. With a resolute expression, he declares that he will help her. As the water dragon lunges to strike, Elias quickly jumps into the air. Observing the dragon's movements, he realizes that it's not very fast, so he might be able to defeat it. However, when he strikes the dragon's head with his sword, nothing seems to happen. He's surprised and realizes that the creature is tougher than he expected. Just then, the dragon prepares to attack him. Elias finds himself completely defenseless. If he gets hit, he will surely die. Suddenly, a barrage of attacks hit the water dragon, causing it to halt its advance. He soon realizes that these attacks are the elf girl's magic, known as Air Cutter. Elias realizes that he can't defeat the water dragon alone, but together with the elf girl, they might have a chance. With a grateful smile, he thanks her for her assistance. He lets her know that he'll act as the vanguard and asks her to support him from the back. She agrees with a nod. Meanwhile, the water dragon leaps into the water and submerges. Seeing the dragon retreat into the lake, Elias worries that they're at a disadvantage since they can't pinpoint its location. He feels uncertain about their next move. Suddenly, the elf girl speaks up, saying she'll smoke it out. She takes a deep breath and begins to channel her magic. After summoning a series of air cutters with her magic, the elf girl launches them into the water where the dragon is hiding. Elias realizes that by flooding the area with air cutters, they can force the dragon out of hiding. As the magic strikes the water dragon, it suddenly emerges from the lake, reappearing before them. With determination, Elias leaps at the water dragon, declaring that it's time for him to make his move. However, as he jumps, the dragon suddenly roars and fires a powerful beam towards him. Elias manages to barely dodge the attack, but some of his clothes are singed in the process. Shocked by the dragon's powerful attack, he lands back on the ground, drenched in sweat and filled with fear. The elf girl asks him if he's all right. He remains silent, surveying the area. The area that got hit by the beam has been completely decimated. If the attack had hit him directly, he would have been reduced to nothing. The elf girl explains that the dragon's roar is incredibly dangerous. Elias responds that he will be careful to stay out of its path. The elf girl assures him that she will support him with her wind magic. Elias believes that if he can strike the dragon's thick skin multiple times in the same spot, he should be able to penetrate it. And if they work together, they will improve their chances even more. Determined, Elias leaps at the dragon once more, while the elf girl assists him with her wind magic. As he approaches the water dragon, it roars and attempts to blast him again. But he narrowly avoids the attack. Meanwhile, the elf girl uses her wind magic to launch several air cutters at the dragon. While the dragon is distracted trying to defend itself, Elias swiftly leaps onto its head and drives his sword into it. The attack deals massive damage, but the fight is not over just yet. When he attempts to pull his sword out, he is startled to find it stuck. The water dragon begins to shake its head violently, and Elias is thrown off balance. While he is airborne, the water dragon roars and unleashes the attack at him once again. Although he manages to avoid most of the attack, his arm becomes completely engulfed by the beam. He crashes to the ground with a hard thud. The elf girl, witnessing the scene, is astonished and quickly moves closer to him, asking if he is all right. Elias sits on the ground, racked with pain in his right arm. He begins to worry about what to do next, wondering if they can continue fighting the water dragon with only one functional arm. He was struggling to keep up even with both arms, but now the situation has gotten even worse. As he wonders what to do, he suddenly hears a voice. He asks the elf girl if she said something. The elf girl looks at him, equally surprised. Elias tells the elf girl that he just heard a voice in his head. As he processes this, the voice returns, urgently calling for his help. Stunned, Elias stands up and wonders who could be calling him. The voice repeats its plea for assistance. With determination, Elias grips his sword with his left hand. Frustrated, he admits to himself that he's not sure if they can escape this situation, but he can't ignore a voice pleading for help. He shouts into the air, asking the voice what he should do to help. The voice instructs him to use his power. Suddenly, Elias feels a surge of energy, and his demonic sword becomes enveloped in water. He is astonished by the newfound power. The elf girl watches in surprise as well. Looking at his sword, Elias is unsure of what to do next. The voice reassures him, telling him not to worry and to trust his instincts. It insists that he can do it. With this power, he can defeat the water dragon. Renewed with confidence, Elias stands tall and ready. As he prepares to attack, the water dragon emerges from the lake once more. Elias realizes there's no time for hesitation and decides to act on instinct. With a fierce determination, he focuses his demonic sword on the water dragon and leaps toward it. Channeling the sword's power and his own skill, he swiftly slices the dragon into numerous small pieces in the blink of an eye. As Elias lands on the ground, the defeated dragon lies in pieces, leaving the elf girl astonished. With a delighted expression, she praises him, saying it's incredible how easily he defeated the water dragon. Meanwhile, Elias is perplexed by the display of power and wonders if he was truly able to wield the demonic sword effectively. Suddenly, a small girl appears out of nowhere. She happily announces that she's finally free to come out. Both Elias and the elf girl are taken aback by her sudden appearance. Elias realizes that she must be a spirit and wonders if the power she lent him is the reason for everything that has just happened. Floating closer to him, the spirit expresses her gratitude, saying he has saved her and thanking him for his kindness. She asks for his name. Still a bit confused, he tells her his name. The elf girl introduces herself as Emma Racknell. The spirit, smiling warmly, tells them that she's pleased to meet them both and introduces herself as Undine. Elias is shocked to hear this. Undine is supposed to be a legendary high spirit whose name only appears in ancient legends. She floats closer to his face and politely asks if he would like to make a contract with her. Elias is even more astonished by this and finds himself questioning whether he heard her correctly. He wonders why would a high spirit would want to form a contract with someone like him. Elias takes a moment to steady himself, determined to understand the meaning of the contract. Seeing his hesitation, Undine asks with a touch of sadness if he intends to reject her offer. Quickly, Elias clarifies that he never said that. Undine then instructs him to extend his hand. As Elias extends his hand in surprise, she holds it and begins to perform a ritual. She creates a mysterious symbol on his hand. After completing this, Undine announces that the contract is finalized. She informs him that he can call on her whenever he needs her power and that they can speak casually as they are now equals. With that, she vanishes. Elias, now alone, reflects on what has happened. He acknowledges that he accepted the contract on impulse and realizes he still has no clear understanding of what it truly means. After everything that happened, Elias turns to Emma and asks if she is injured. Emma, however, seems more focused on something else. Without warning, she approaches him, takes his hand, and enthusiastically invites him to come with her to the elf kingdom. Elias is taken aback by this sudden and unexpected offer from Emma. He asks her what she's talking about. She explains that she has been tasked with finding a human who can see spirits. Stepping back slightly, she creates a few glowing orbs of light and asks him if he can identify the color of the lesser spirit gathering around her. Confused, Elias responds that he only sees blue. Elias asks if the ball of light is a spirit. Emma, surprised, confirms that he can see it but is unfamiliar with what it is. She explains that very few humans in the world can see spirits, and among human tribes, their numbers are so small they can be counted on one hand. Elias then understands why others cannot see the spirits. Elias admits that while he can see spirits, he doesn't think he'll be of much use. Emma, looking concerned, asks why he feels that way. He explains that his magic power is non-existent. He can't even perform basic magic and can only use his sword as an ordinary weapon. He adds that their victory over the water dragon was entirely thanks to Undine's help. Emma acknowledges that while most humans who can see spirits typically receive some kind of blessing, Elias' achievement of forming a contract with a legendary spirit is remarkable in itself. She takes his hand and, with a hopeful expression, asks again if he will come with her. Elias, uncertain about his next steps, decides to simply agree. Emma looks astonished at Elias' response. He mentions that he has something to take care of in the city first. They head back to the city, and Elias goes into the Adventurers Guild. He hands over the water dragon horn to the receptionist, who is visibly shocked by the sight of it. After completing this task, Elias exits the guild and rejoins Emma. Elias tells Emma that he's finished with his errands and asks if he kept her waiting. She smiles warmly and reassures him that he can simply call her Emma, dropping all formalities. She adds that since they'll be adventuring together for a while, he should feel comfortable treating her like a friend. Elias happily realizes that this means he'll have the chance to go on adventures with someone again. They continue on their way, and Emma mentions that they should find an inn for the night. Elias agrees, noting that they can find one along the way. Just then, someone calls out from behind, asking if Elias is still there. To Elias' surprise, it turns out to be Matteo and his companions. Matteo glances at Emma and comments that this is his first time meeting someone from the elf tribe. He adds that, as the rumors say, they are indeed beautiful. Emma thanks him for the compliment. Matteo introduces himself with respect as the hero of his party. Emma then gives her own introduction in return. Matteo turns to Elias with a piercing gaze and asks Emma if she is currently going somewhere with him. Elias is taken aback, while Emma responds affirmatively and asks why he wants to know. With a forced smile, Matteo then suggests that Emma might consider joining their party. He explains that they are looking for a strong party member, not someone like Elias who he dismisses as weak. Matteo suggests that adventuring with their party would be more beneficial, and his companions nod in agreement. Meanwhile, Elias feels a surge of anger at their audacity to invite someone already in his party. Despite the offer, Emma bows her head respectfully and declines Matteo's proposal. Emma apologizes to Matteo and explains that she prefers to adventure with Elias, not with heroes like them. Elias's face lights up in surprise at her words. Matteo, looking displeased, asks if she is joking. Emma thanks Matteo for his advice and adds that, in her opinion, Elias is stronger than the hero's party. Matteo and his companions leave with embarrassed expressions, and Matteo warns Emma that she will regret her decision later. As they walk away, Elias turns to Emma with a grateful smile and thanks her for her kindness. Emma, puzzled, asks him why he is thanking her. She reassures him that there is no need to be grateful for something she sees as simply the right thing to do. Noticing the pain in Elias' expression, Emma asks if he would mind sharing what happened with the hero's party. With a somber look, Elias begins to recount the past. He explains that he and Matteo first met through a connection his master had with the royal family. When they met, Elias introduced himself and mentioned that he would be joining Matteo's party from that point on. With a cheerful expression, Matteo introduces himself and extends his hand, reassuring Elias that he doesn't need to be so formal since they are comrades. Shortly after, the Sword Saint Thomas and Isabella join the party. Elias feels a surge of excitement, thrilled at the prospect of adventuring with such a prestigious group. Thomas approaches Elias and comments on his sword, noting that it looks impressive. Elias thanks Thomas for the compliment and explains that the sword is a magic sword. Thomas is taken aback, noting that it's his first time seeing one. With a smile, Elias adds that he can't actually use its magic because his magical power is 0. Reflecting on this, Elias realizes he is the only anomaly in the party, feeling the distance growing between himself and the others, who advance with each fight while he struggles to wield the magic sword effectively. As the dungeon levels increased, Elias found himself becoming a liability, and the party started losing more frequently. Eventually, Matteo told Elias harshly that he was a burden to the team and was being dismissed from the party. Standing on the water bridge while recounting the story to Emma, Elias reflects with a heavy heart that being the weakest, he ended up dragging everyone down. Upon hearing Elias' story, Emma remarks that it's no surprise a magic swordsman who can't wield a magic sword would be considered a burden. Ilias is taken aback and looks at her, asking if there's something wrong. She approaches him and asks if he finds her comment strange. Surprised by her directness, Ilias listens as she clarifies that she needs to be straightforward. Ilias is strong. Ilias, with a smile, points out that it was Undine's power that allowed them to defeat the water dragon. Emma disagrees, insisting that Ilias was already strong from the beginning. She explains that if he weren't strong, they would have been defeated by the water dragon. She continues, noting that Ilias has a keen grasp of the situation. Even when facing a formidable opponent, he quickly assessed the situation and took optimal action. Emma tells Ilias that he also showed awareness of her position while guiding the enemy. Ilias, still smiling, asks if that's not a normal thing to do. He adds that even in dangerous situations, people tend to care for their allies while fighting, and he doesn't believe that those who aren't strong can do that. Emma replies that it's no surprise he's not aware of his own strengths. Emma tells Ilias that he has been treated poorly by the hero's party, so she wants to set the record straight. With a warm smile, she says that someone who keeps fighting while protecting their allies is indeed strong. She urges him to believe in himself. Ilias is taken aback, but thanks her for her kind words. He replies that, as he mentioned before, it's not a big deal. After some time, as they fight monsters in the forest, Ilias chops down another creature and asks Emma how much longer it will be until they reach the elf kingdom. Emma responds that it will be just a bit longer. Curiously, she asks if Ilias' abilities seem stronger than before. Ilias, with a hint of confusion, replies that he's also surprised by this development. With a happy smile, Ilias thanks Undine, acknowledging that her help is the reason for his improvement. Undine appears in front of him and says that the progress isn't solely due to her powers. She explains that it can be challenging to adapt to her abilities initially, but Ilias will become very strong as he continues. Hearing this, Ilias cheerfully comments that he hopes she's right. Confused, Emma asks if Ilias is talking to Undine at that moment. Ilias, stunned, asks Emma if she can't see Undine. Undine explains that typically, only the contractor can see a spirit bound by a contract, unless the observer has powers comparable to those of a spirit. Realizing this, Ilias asks Undine if she can make Emma see her temporarily. Undine agrees and then appears in front of Emma as well. Emma is surprised to see Undine, and as Undine begins playing with her, Emma's joy is evident. Meanwhile, Ilias, puzzled, questions why someone with no magic power like himself can see spirits. Sitting on Emma's head, Undine explains that it might be due to a trait from his magic sword. Ilias is taken aback by this revelation. Undine continues, suggesting that the sword itself may be capable of manifesting spirit power, which is why Ilias, as its owner, can see the spirits as well. Undine adds that, for some reason, the sword and Ilias have a matching wavelength. Perhaps no one else is as compatible with that sword as he is. After explaining this, Undine disappears, leaving Ilias to look at the sword his master gave him, still puzzled. Suddenly, Emma speaks up, pointing to a location and mentioning that they can see it now. It turns out that the ruin is the entry point to the elf kingdom. Ilias is astonished as he sees it. Emma explains that they use teleportation magic at this ruin to reach the elf kingdom. She excitedly says that they need to head to the center of the pillars. Ilias agrees, and they both move toward the pillar. As they enter the pillar, something unusual begins to happen. Ilias is taken aback by the sudden changes, and in the blink of an eye, the world transforms, and they find themselves in the heart of the elf kingdom. The elf kingdom is a breathtakingly beautiful and unfamiliar place to Ilias. He is in awe as he takes in the scenery. Emma, brimming with happiness, points out that her house is just up the stairs. She leads the way, with Ilias following her and taking in the surroundings. He wonders about Emma's home and marvels at the grandeur of the kingdom. As they walk, a group of people notices them. Upon recognizing Emma, they are visibly amazed. Emma approaches them, and they greet her with blessings and prayers. After bidding farewell to the group, Emma and Ilias continue their walk towards her home. Soon, they arrive at a stunningly beautiful and expensive mansion. Emma informs Ilias that this is her house, and he is immediately awestruck by its grandeur. As they enter, Ilias marvels at the mansion's beauty. Emma advises him to be careful not to get lost, given its size. Ilias, overwhelmed with happiness, thinks to himself that it resembles a castle. Emma calls out loudly to her mother, announcing her return. Her mother, rural Raquel, appears and warmly welcomes her. With a sweet and apologetic expression, Emma explains that she is late. Merle, noticing Elias, is taken aback and asks if he is the boy she had heard about. Emma confirms that he is indeed Elias. At that moment, Emma's father also arrives, and Emma's face lights up with happiness upon seeing him. Michael comments that it seems Emma has indeed found him. He then extends a warm welcome to Elias and introduces himself as Michael Racknell, the king of the country. Elias is stunned by this revelation and realizes that it means Emma must be a princess.
Here I am, know it's been a while.